podcast for life.
Doggy Charles. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. The microphone messiah. Yeah. It's the microphone messiah. And Mr. No Days Off. Microphone messiah. Mr. No Days Off. Phil, Brandon, what's good, y'all? Let's go. Bullet Cast host. Look, this is the time for us to be great on podcasts. Let you know this is the time and how the vibe lasts. This is the feeling of time and when we on it. You know we got no time for no opponent, just the feeling. This is the time of the greats on everything that we say. You know we about getting paid. Every opinion of wrestling. You know we got the truth in it. Every time you know that we on, this is the movement. You know the Bullet Pass podcast been on. You know the time we on, the feeling. This is the time of dealing. We live in life of everything.
Yo, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? The microphone aside, Phillip here. Another split up Bullet Cast. I'll be joined by Marlee and Brandon later throughout the show. They're going to give their thoughts on some things, and of course, we're all going to preview War Games individually. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Happy Turkey Day, happy holidays as we're closing out the end of 2024. So let's get right into it. I'll talk about some stuff that's going on outside of the ring. I know they just released a 30 under 30 list. It is the 30 best wrestlers that are under 30 years old. And I believe Dominic Mysterio was number one. Dominic, he's had a great career thus far. I mean, the stuff he's done at such a young age is remarkable, really. Just the stuff with Ray and then obviously with the Judgment Day. Here it is. Dominic Mysterio's number one. Then MJF, Tony Storm, Mariah May, Konosuke Takeshita, Braun Breaker's on there. So really good list, man. But Dom, he's so good. The heat is real. If you go to a show, they're not just booing him to boo him. People don't like this guy, and he can't speak to do a promo to save his life because the boos are so loud. You love it. And Dominic, he hit another level when he got with obviously he hit another level when he joined with the Judgment Day and Rhea, but when he got with Liv, to be the only guy, I think he's the only heel in the history of wrestling that has turned heel while being a heel. It was just so good. So congratulations to Dominic Mysterio on that. AEW's 2025 dates. I know Brandon talked about this a couple weeks ago, but yes, they're going to be running smaller venues moving on into next year. It's something that I've been preaching about that they need to do. It's for the better, man. Work smaller venues, pack them out as best as you can, if not pack them out, and then just run TV and give it a great feel. TNA, they do it. They kind of know where they're at. They run smaller buildings and they make it work. Now, obviously, I know AEW is a bigger company than TNA, but it's not 2019 it's not 2019 to even late 2022 anymore. It's just we got or even I'd say middle of 2023, even that too. We gotta run smaller buildings. Build it back up. Run big buildings for the shows, for the pay-per-views. I think that'd be the way to go. Speaking of that, also, AEW Grand Slam in Australia has been moved to a smaller venue, obviously given the attendance and what's going on with that. So, I know they were hoping to sell a lot of tickets for that, but hey, go to a smaller venue, pack it out as best you can, and just put on a really good show. Because the week to week is, it drags or whatever, but the pay-per-views, they're kind of in their bag with those. You can just figure out how to translate that level of excitement week to week. Because obviously at first, it's new, the stuff's gonna work, but then over time, even during the pandemic, they did kind of try to find different things to keep television interesting and whatnot. And a lot of it did work. So they just have to find their groove back with AEW. That's all it is. Speedball Mike Bailey. Apparently his contract is expiring with TNA. So if he's a free agent, man, God, the possibilities are endless for him. Obviously, AEW is the place for him to go that people want to see. They want to see him and Ricochet and Ospreay, and I think him and Takeshita would be something fire. But I mean, WWE is another option. I mean, you have the stuff they're doing in NXT with some good talent, and then I think him just showing up on the main roster would be something interesting. I can see him going with guys like Braun Breaker, get something out of Ludwig Kaiser, Ilya whenever he's back and ready, or go over to SmackDown and give him and Shinsuke, just give him 10 to 12 and let him just go. You know what I'm saying? But I think the NXT division would be that he would give that a nice facelift. I mean, NXT's already doing a great job, and Speedball Mike Bailey in there. Oh, I think it would take it to a different level, man. Could you imagine Speedball Mike Bailey versus Obafemi or something like that? It'd be crazy. Absolutely mind-blowing. CM Punk says he wasted some matches in AEW. He did an interview with Peter Rosenberg from Cheap Heat, shout out. And yeah, he said he kind of wasted some matches. Now, he didn't name any names. I think Punk's smarter than that. He knows, like, if he names names and the dirt sheets are going to pull onto that and say, oh, he was talking shit, but I mean, there were one-offs and stuff, so I don't. I would like to know. I'm curious. Like, okay, what matches do you think you just wasted them? You just did it just to do it. I mean, I look at it as like just get to the ring rust off. I mean, he did this for a very long time, but he had he had 7 years off. That's a long time, man. I mean, I know some guys, like, even if they just take like a couple months off of wrestling and come back, like, oh boy. But I mean, that long, almost a decade, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's going to take some time to get used to. So I would like to know. I think we all would like to know who Punk's talking about with that. And then keeping up with the CM Punk news, it has been 10 years since the Art of Wrestling podcast aired. That was Colt Cabana's podcast. He sat down with CM Punk, several months after he had walked out on WWE. And yeah, I mean, I remember when that podcast came out. Actually, that's the first podcast I ever listened to. And man, that podcast set the wrestling world on fire. Wrestling Twitter and social media they were talking all about that stuff, man. I mean, Punk he just aired it out, talked about his frustrations for Vince, talked about working with Ryback and just all this stuff. Where does it rank now, guys? Where does it rank now? How is it held up now today than it was back then? I mean, 10 years ago, Punk hated the company. Now, 10 years later, he's back. He seems to be a sweetheart. We haven't heard anything negative about Punk backstage in WWE. He's been back for a year, and now he's about to head into one of the biggest storylines in wrestling right now. So, I mean, how do you think CM Punk is doing 10 years after this blockbuster podcast? All right, guys, let's talk about SmackDown. The OG Bloodline is out there to face off with the new Bloodline, and then you hear those famed words, ladies and gentlemen. Just the look on Roman's face, the pop from the crowd. Paul Heyman comes out there and he says it will not be 4-on-5, it will be 5-on-5. And split second, thought like, is Brock's music gonna hit? But no, it was Cult of Personality. CM Punk has joined the OG Bloodline to face the new Bloodline, and they were just going off to the races, fighting everybody. Roman hits a spear, and Punk hits a GTS simultaneously on both of the Tongans, and they're just staring at each other. And, Punk's looking at Roman's like, I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing this for him, points at Paul Heyman. And the OG Bloodline, all of them throw up the one. Punk puts up his go to sleep hands, and just an insane image. Like, who would have thought? Who would have thought that CM Punk would come back to WWE a year ago at Survivor Series, and then a year later he would have been in probably the best feud of the year without really even wrestling a lot, having one of the best Hell in the Cell matches we've seen in a very long time, and then entering the match beyond to team up with Roman Reigns and his family to go up against other members of his family. Just crazy, man. Hell of a 2024 has been a hell of a year. But yeah, there's some things that we need to note. Paul Heyman was dressed the way Solo was dressed when he first started claiming to be the tribal chief. With the suit and the red T-shirt. And people were like, well, look at that. What does that mean? Nothing the Bloodline does. The Bloodline doesn't do anything for no reason. Everything they do on TV, it matters, and they will address it eventually. I don't know. Maybe to show this is a different Paul Heyman. This isn't the Paul Heyman that went through that announcer's table all those months ago. Yeah. I hear Sam Roberts talks about Cody Rhodes having 3 different attires and having kick-ass gear. Maybe this is Paul Heyman's kick-ass suit. Like, oh no, I'm gonna conduct that my team really kick your ass. Maybe this is the suit. I don't know, but we'll find out with the dress with the way Heyman was dressing. But I'm excited, man. CM Punk, Roman Reigns on the same team. This is going to be something very interesting. I love to see it. Yeah, man. I'm excited for War Games. They already kind of upped the ante with Bronson Reed and people speculating it was going to be Seth Rollins and that not happening. Now I heard something else. I want to throw this to you guys. What if? I don't think it'll happen, but what people? Somebody like, what if? I think I heard this on Sam Roberts' podcast. What if Bronson Reed gets taken out by Seth, and because Seth hates Roman Reigns and CM Punk so much that he joins the Solo's bloodline? I'm like, well, that would be something, but I think people are excited to see a Bronson in there with Solo and the Tongans and Jacob. So I'm interested, man. And then with Punk joining on the OG Bloodline side, Jacob Fatu versus CM Punk. Come on now, man. Just think of the possibilities with all these Punk matches, man. And this OG Bloodline alliance for one night. I'm excited. Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes face to face somewhat as KO. He's in the crowd and then gets on the announcer's table and they're just talking trash to each other. Cody Rhodes in his kick-ass gear, the track pants and the sleeveless hoodie. Shout out Sam Roberts for pointing out the distinctions in Cody's attire. But Cody challenges Kevin Owens to a match at Saturday night's main event for the undisputed WWE Championship. To bring back Saturday night's main event and put this on there, that's a hell of a job. I think KO should win. He could. He could have it for a month. Like he could lose it at the Rumble. Like just let him run with it as long as he gets it, bro. Like I think this is the perfect opportunity. Or even what's do it at the Rumble, or maybe they have a rematch at the Rumble and KO gets by him again, and then you do a rematch at the Chamber and Cody can get it back there heading into Mania if we're gonna have Cody Rhodes be the WWE champion heading into WrestleMania. So yeah, I think that would be something. But yeah, KO versus Cody. This is gonna be a very, very good match, and with everything that has happened since their Bash in Berlin match, and Cody telling KO like you couldn't pull the trigger and stuff like that. Kevin Owens is still that dastardly psychotic human being, so I'm sure we're gonna see that that pile driver hits. I think it's game over, and it's 1-2-3. Kevin Owens, new champ. Jade Cargill was attacked on SmackDown. She was laying on top of the hood of a car, broken windshield, leg bent. Kind of looked like when Kurt Angle got choke slammed or pushed by Big Show when he landed on the on the ground on that SmackDown. He had the blood coming from the back of his head. But yeah, nonetheless, a list of injuries was tweeted out, and I believe Bianca Belair was competing in a women's U.S. title tournament qualifier or something like that. She was competing in the tournament, yeah, and she had to run away to go see about Jade. Just unbelievable. Interesting way to write off Jade. I've heard something about they may have to relinquish the tag titles, which I don't think that's going to happen. Or it may, given the length, the amount of injuries that Jade Cargill has suffered and everything like that. So we'll have to wait and see. But nonetheless, interesting. And people are like, okay, well, who did it? This takes her out of next week's or this Friday night. I believe they're doing it. She was gonna have her match in the tournament to advance and get an opportunity to become the Women's U.S. Champion. People have been throwing around the name Charlotte Flair. I mean, Charlotte, I think that would be something, man. I mean, Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill. They had a couple like backstage segments together before Charlotte left TV. Charlotte versus Jade is a money matchup. I mean, but I still feel like Bianca versus Jade is a match you do at WrestleMania. But if Bianca's gonna be a heel, okay, I think that's that's really like that's all she kind of has left to do on the main roster. I feel like, I mean, she's been the babyface for so long. All three of her title runs, she was a babyface. Two women's tag title runs. Yeah, let her be, kind of what she was in NXT. I mean, she's grown so much as a performer. Let her tap into her heelness and let's see what can happen. But those are my thoughts on SmackDown. I'm going to throw it over to Brandon and Marlee.
What's up, Bullet Cats? It's your boy, Brandon Tagumi, here with another solo recap of SmackDown. And we'll just jump to the end. The biggest happenings was the ending segment with the Bloodline. We had Solo Sikoa demanding that Roman Reigns and the OG Bloodline come out and basically wave the white flag because they don't have anybody else. There's only 4 people. It's supposed to be a 5-on-5 War Games match, and there's just no way that they can do it. So they should, throw in the towel per se, acknowledge Solo, and come home and join the new Bloodline. But that is not what happened. If you remember, we had Paul Heyman's phone get disconnected, phone number changed, whatever the case may be. I don't know. But Paul Heyman comes out. He had a red undershirt, like a red, not t-shirt, but, a red undershirt, no tie. And so maybe he's going to join the OG Bloodline because that's kind of their colorway. And he cuts a promo, which I thought was a shocker. Paul Heyman cutting a good promo. And he brings out the returning CM Punk. And then we get a nice 5-on-5 brawl to end the show with the final scene taking place with Roman and CM Punk hitting their spears pretty much in unison, and a little stare down to end SmackDown. And I thought this was a fun time. The return of Paul Heyman was kind of sudden and a little rapid after what happened last week. And not that that's a bad thing, even though I do feel like there's been some aspects of this Bloodline story that have been rushed, but I don't have an issue with Paul Heyman coming back like 1 week after being reintroduced. And CM Punk added into the War Games match, I think it's a much better addition than Seth Rollins. I understand that Seth and Bronson Reed have the the dynamic. They have the ongoing feud going on, and Seth and Roman have their thing. But I just think the randomness of CM Punk getting added into this Bloodline, you have the Paul Heyman dynamic. Where does he stand? Not in terms of OG and new Bloodline, because I think it should be that he should be with the OG Bloodline, especially with what happened post-WrestleMania and kind of the torment that the new Bloodline put Paul through. So, but, CM Punk's a big name, big star, and the dynamic of this iteration of Roman Reigns and CM Punk we have never seen before, and it kind of adds a fun dynamic. It adds a intriguing factor to the War Games match. I'll come back and give my full breakdown on War Games and Survivor Series in general to see what I think about what will happen, but I just think adding a big-time star in CM Punk is kind of I don't exactly know how to explain it, because it makes sense for him being in there, but it is kind of random enough to where it basically, I think it just comes down to I would much rather see CM Punk interact with the Bloodline right now than Seth Rollins. And I think that just comes down to it. And there's not a lot of people that you could choose from on the main roster. So that's why when we were kind of going back, we kind of overlooked Punk because he was just kind of, out of sight, out of mind. But I think this is a really good pick. If you are going to do 5-on-5, I still would just rather it be 4v4, true Bloodline versus Bloodline. But if you have to add a random person to the match, like Bronson Reed, it's whatever. It's the heel side. I don't think it makes too much of a difference. But on the babyface side with CM Punk, I think it's a good addition. Then we had another one of the women's U.S. title matches. And we had Blair Davenport, Chelsea Green, and Bianca Belair And what's a way to really showcase how important this new women's title is to your biggest star in the tournament, probably on SmackDown, Bianca Belair? She just up and leaves the match. And yes, I understand that Jade Cargill got absolutely wrecked and was like laying dead on the car, but that's not exactly a good look for this tournament where you're trying to make some sort of credibility, try to make people care about this title, and you just have the person just walk out of the match. I don't think that was a really good look. The beatdown itself, or the angle itself with Jade, it was just so fake looking, to be honest. Like, I know Jade has a legit issue. It seems like it's her neck, and she can be out for either a couple months or up to a year. So her status for WrestleMania definitely is in question, which does suck to see. But the angle itself, I was not a fan. I mean, it just clearly looked like Jade. They put some makeup on, they broke the windshield, and just she was laying, plain dead there. It didn't look realistic whatsoever. I think the crowd, there was not really any heat behind it. There was, maybe like the initial reaction of just the visual of it, but it wasn't like anyone really cared too much about her being hurt. Like, you could have done something a little more simpler where she's, writhing in pain backstage, or she's, you can sell how injured she is, but her not being just sprawled out dead with like her arms and legs going in opposite directions. I just thought it was so cartoonish that it was so hard to believe that it was an actual thing. That led to Chelsea Green beating Blair Davenport. And Chelsea kind of seems like, I don't know if I'd say the odds-on favorite, but definitely the favorite in the hearts of fans and the internet and whatever. And I don't have too big of an issue with it. If you're going to put it on someone, Chelsea seems like a perfectly fine individual. You're not going to put it on people like Bianca, or kind of like the tippy top people. So if you're going to put it on a true mid-card, this is a true mid-card title, you're going to put it on one of the mid-card women. Chelsea Green and her character work is one of the better options that you have, honestly. Then we had the Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens showdown, and if you remember last week, I really enjoyed the Cody Rhodes segment with Nick Aldis. I love this segment even more. I mean, Rhodes and Kevin just going back and forth, trading barbs. They made sense. You could see where Kevin was coming from. You could see where Cody was coming from. Both of them, really good intensity, gave you a reason to see this match, the reason for why they're fighting. I just thought it was really well done. Like, definitely the best thing Cody has done in this title reign. Like, frankly, like even like the little stuff he's done with the Bloodline and stuff, and kind of interacting with The Rock and AJ Styles and whatever else he's done since WrestleMania 41. I thought this stuff has been phenomenal. Honestly, maybe even more, the best thing he's done all year, just because the build to WrestleMania was a little bit of a mess, but definitely post WrestleMania in this title reign, I would say this is the best segment of Cody Rhodes' title run. And they announced that the match is going to take place at Saturday night's main event in December in a couple weeks. So a fine place for that to happen. They already have a lot of matches set for Survivor Series, so no real reason to put it on that one. So yeah, then kind of bouncing over some of the lesser stuff that I didn't think was all that important. LA Knight, his U.S. title reign has not been that great. Like, he gets good reaction, people care about him, but he had another match where people, it was whatever. Tag team match. I don't think we really talked about the ongoing apparent heel turn of Tommaso Ciampa, and I'm intrigued to see where this goes. I think Tommaso Ciampa is much better as a heel. He seems motivated. Johnny Gargano, they're teasing whether he's going to turn face or turn heel with Ciampa. I think he turns heel with Ciampa, and DIY is a heel act. So that was my thoughts on SmackDown. Overall, I thought it was a good show with those two anchor segments of the CM Punk return and the Cody KO talking segment. But yeah, I thought it was really enjoyable.
Friday SmackDown opened with a promo from Solo, the new Bloodline, all in the ring. Solo is asking Roman to surrender going into War Games. He expects a surrender by the end of the night. Then we segue into the quarterfinals of the Women's United States title tournament. a new belt that was recently introduced along with the Women's Intercontinental title this past week on Raw. New belts for the women, which I think is cool. It gives the women a chance to shine, but at the same time, I have this paranoia that it's going to get the same treatment as the women's tag team titles, where they kind of just fall to the wayside and aren't really prioritized as much as the main titles. But we'll see. Only time will tell how these belts are approached and if there is another tournament for the women's intercontinental belt. I can totally see that happening, but don't want to say that I'm excited yet. Only we can just wait and see on that one. I like to see how it plays out, but Chelsea Green ended up winning that triple threat, and I have been team put a belt on Chelsea Green since she has returned to the WWE. She's vastly underrated, and she's pretty much excelled in everything she's been doing. So I'm a huge fan of Chelsea Green, and I wouldn't be opposed if we put either title on her, but she deserves a title shot. She deserves a title reign of some sort. So accepting it. LA Knight and Santos Escobar for the U.S. title. LA Knight ended up retaining, and we have the return of Shinsuke Nakamura. Attacked LA Knight after the match, and I guess we are setting up a feud between Shinsuke and LA Knight, which will be cool to see. Have not seen Shinsuke in a while. It's nice to see him back. Cody and Kevin had an exchange of words, very heated, very emotional, very passionate. You can definitely see the passion in both men. How that plays out for them, excited to see the build for that. And then we got Naomi and Bayley versus Candice LeRae and Tiffany Stratton tag team match where Bayley and Naomi won by disqualification. There was a whole brawl between the women's War Games teams. Naomi got attacked after the match, and then Io Sky came out to make the save. Raquel and Liv came out, Rhea came out, and Team Rhea stood tall. Montez versus Tommaso Ciampa. Montez versus Tommaso Ciampa. Montez beat Ciampa, and there was still more of the tension between Ciampa and Motor City Machine Guns due to Johnny's history with Alex Shelley, and I'm on the side that thinks that even though Johnny Gargano has this history with Alex Shelley, he might still take Ciampa's side because I feel like it's way too soon to break up DIY. I feel like DIY haven't been together long enough on the main roster personally, or it just feels like it hasn't been that long enough on the main roster. But I think that they need a solid heel run because they were faces in NXT from what I can remember, and they were faces up until they lost the belts. Now it's kind of like in this ambiguous era of, okay, are they turning heel? What's going on here? I think that DIY should have a heel run before they call it quits as a tag team. And then the end segment, we had the OG Bloodline face to face with the new Bloodline. Words were exchanged. Paul Heyman came out. He made his grand return. The shock and appall on Roman Reigns' face as the fifth member on the OG Bloodline team was revealed to be CM Punk. He has returned from injury, and there's even more layers to unpack. with that, because the whole time I personally was watching that segment, I just kept thinking about the last time CM Punk and Paul Heyman were in the ring together. I feel like Punk was the one who said, like, I think he said it to Heyman that you are the only one that can make me do this, or something along the lines of that. And I feel like Punk is the reason that Paul Heyman has made his return, because if you notice, Roman called Paul last week, and the call went straight to voicemail. But Paul Heyman was very eager to reveal Punk as his fifth man for the OG Bloodline team. So we'll see how that plays out, because that's even another layer to unpack.
All right, guys, one touch inside the ring real quick. Ricky Starks showed up at the GCW show that was at the Mall of America, and I believe Ricky Starks was just on the Chris Van Vliet podcast, too. Go check that out. But apparently he's been pulled from GCW shows moving forward. I don't know why. It has something to do with the things he was saying, I guess, and then there's a rumor of Edge coming back and something, but I don't know what that has to do with anything. And I know what Starks flustered Edge on television, given that little segment they did on Collision. But yeah, man, let him work, bro. Like, if the dates aren't interfering with your tapings, and if you're not using the guy, let him go do this. I don't get it. I'll never understand. I mean, I guess this is a punishment, and if it is, Tony Khan, I don't think he's ever really done this. He's just letting people kind of sit backstage with their contracts and until they expire or they're freed up. And I think, or is Starks one of the guys that I know, like, if you were injured and then Tony Khan can add more time onto the contract. Is he one of those guys? I'm not sure, because I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if Tony Khan has any heat with GCW, if he has a problem with Brett Lauderdale. I don't know anything about that, but I mean, Ricky Starks kind of made. I saw those clips of him at GCW popping up all over the place, man. He was making a little noise. I like Ricky Starks. Very charismatic. Good in the ring, man, and just I hate that nothing really ever came from the stuff he did. I mean, he beat Jericho at Revolution, nothing came of that. He was doing the stuff with CM Punk, and then he was the tag champion with Big Bill, and after they lost those, that was kind of it, So Ricky Starks, whatever's going on, hope to see him at upcoming GCW shows. Hope to just see him back on television so he can get back to it, man. I love absolute Ricky Starks. All right, let's recap Monday Night Raw. Not a lot to talk about, just a couple things. Priest puts Gunther through the announce table, asserting his dominance, still getting in Gunther's head. I mean, Gunther even asked Ludwig, like, do you see the ring general? Like, I think what he meant by that was, like, do you still see the guy I used to be that reigned over WWE as the longest running Intercontinental Champion of all time? Do you still see that guy? So, I think it's all going to play out well, because once that bell rings, man, I can see, like, maybe Damien getting, like, one-upsmanship on a couple spots, but, like, once that bell rings, he's the ring general for a reason. I mean, he's just going to go, and it's going to be at a different level, and I think we might see – we're either going to see Gunther's probably most dominant match to date, or we're just going to see a well-even match with Gunther getting not getting by Priest. He defeats him definitively, but it's a very well-even contest. The women's IC title has been introduced. The U.S. women's title is going to be on SmackDown, so the Raw is going to get a women's IC title. You know how Brandon and I are. No more titles, but we got everybody's got to get a prize. So that's really all I got to say about that. Kofi and Woods lose to Alpha Academy, and then they're backstage arguing. Kofi's telling Woods, like, you're not too eccentric, just this is why, E and I never let you call the shots. You're kind of too chaotic. This is why you've never been a singles champion. This is why you fumbled your IC title shot. This is why you fumbled your crown. And Woods was like, me putting all these crazy ideas together is what got you to the world championship. And Kofi was like, nah, bro, I was a Hall of Famer before I even linked up with y'all. I was like, okay, Kofi, stand on your business. Multiple IC title runs and US title runs by the time he got with the New Day, which has been 10 years, is crazy. And Woods was like, we got you there. We got you to the highest mountain. And then you fumbled it in 6 seconds with Brock Lesnar. Nobody's ever thrown that in Kofi's face. And it's been what, 5 years now? Nobody's ever thrown that in his face. I was like, oh, okay, they're really going for it here. So the anniversary, the celebration episode is going to be the next Monday Night Raw after Survivor Series. Can't wait to see what happens, man. Can't wait to see. Hopefully Big E pops up. I just saw the New Day. All three of them were together with Triple H at WWE headquarters on YouTube, just kind of reminiscing about like how the New Day started and like did Hunter think it was gonna work and stuff like that. Go find that over on YouTube. It's a good little watch. But yeah, do they pull the trigger? Does Woods go full heel? And does this probably, hopefully, get him to a singles championship? If they pull the trigger, I feel like it needs to. It needs to get him to the promised land. But you never know what's going to happen. That's going to be it for my Raw recap. I'm going to throw it over to Marlee and Brandon.
This week's Raw was alright. We opened with a little promo segment between Gunther and Damian Priest, which I thought was interesting because I don't think we need to revisit Gunther and Damian Priest, but at the same time, where they left off did feel kind of unfinished, but at the same time, their feud almost felt pretty random. So it's a mixed bag with Damian and Gunther for me, but it was entertaining. It built up some hype going into their Survivor Series match. We had Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio versus American Made, which was a solid tag team match. There was a segment with Bianca's team for the women's war game side of things. There was a little spat over who the fifth member should be, which we learned who the fifth member is later in the night. We then have Braun Breaker versus Ludwig Kaiser for the Intercontinental title, and there was a scary spot with Braun Breaker. He did his normal run around the ring to a spear, but he speared himself right into the commentator's desk, and it was gnarly. It was scary. Hope he's okay after that, but ultimately Ludwig Kaiser won by disqualification. We had a tag team championship match, the War Raiders versus Finn and JD of the Judgment Day, which they ended up retaining. We had New Day versus Alpha Academy. Lots of tension between the New Day as of late. We are approaching that 10-year anniversary of the New Day, and I am on the side of just pull the trigger and break the New Day up, because I feel like you can execute a Big E return and split up the New Day at the same time, because it's been 10 years. I feel as if the New Day has run their course as a tag team, not just because Big E has been out with injury, but I feel like they've kind of set the standard along with the Usos for tag team wrestling in the modern era. So I feel like they've done what they've needed to do as a tag team, and it's time for everybody to branch out on their own. Maybe Xavier can finally go for that singles title that he's never won, that Kofi managed to bring up during their little backstage spat. But as much as I am a fan of the New Day and have been a fan of the New Day for the past, I'm not going to say I've been here for the whole 10 years, but I feel like I can honestly say they have run their course, and that is perfectly okay to say. And then finally, we end with the War Games advantage match between Bianca and Nia, which Bianca ultimately ends up winning with an assist from Bayley. And that was Raw. It was alright. It was interesting going into War Games. The go home shows are always, they always have that spice, like I've mentioned before. So we'll see where Saturday takes us.
All right, I'm back with the Raw recap. We had the opening segment of Damian Priest and Gunther. I kind of like the idea of Gunther, kind of maybe selling a little bit and not exactly having his aura, as the kids say. But I think he can tone it down quite a bit, honestly. Like, I think it'd be much better if the story was Priest is saying Gunther is rattled, but Gunther is saying he's not. And, like, visibly, he's not really shaken, but you can kind of question if he is or not, and maybe he kind of slips up once, and Priest kind of jumps on that. But I think Gunther's just being very, I think, over the top and cartoonish with his selling of the story, and also kind of puts Priest in a tough predicament. Go over the preview later, but Priest is saying that Gunther is rattled and he's not what he used to be, and so then what happens if Gunther beats him? You know what I'm saying? But it was okay, but I thought Gunther kind of really hammed it up here with his selling of his loss of aura. Honestly, like, the Raw going into Survivor Series was nothing like major. Like, there was some segments, but I think the other big thing on this one was the New Day segment. We have the 10th anniversary of New Day coming up next week, and we had the tension of Kofi and Xavier kind of reach its boiling point, and we finally saw both of them snap at each other. Before the segment, they were all happy-go-lucky, excited for the New Day reunion or New Day celebration next week. They have a tag team match with Tozawa and Otis, and they get into a bickering bout to who's going to win or who's going to start the match, and then they end up losing in like under a minute, and then they just kind of bicker and then go backstage, and then they just really lay into each other, just kind of saying the things that only your friends really would know. That's what gets under your skin, so it makes it even more personal. But I thought it was really good. It was intense. It felt real. Not in the sense of like they actually hate each other, but I just thought it was like, it seemed believable that's things that they would say to each other, because what they were saying were true. Kofi, lost to Brock Lesnar in 6 seconds. Xavier is kind of the third person at a New Day. He hasn't won a singles title after all these years. So I thought it was really enjoyable. It does kind of hit you over the head, going back to like the lack of subtleness in WWE at times, that they're kind of saying, look, they're going to break up at the 10th anniversary show, which kind of makes me believe maybe they don't do it, which I think would be like an interesting twist. And not saying you need to drag this out any further, but maybe, Big E comes back and he's kind of the glue that kind of barely holds them together, and they just get by with, there's definitely some tension in there, but they're able to kind of, okay, like, I get it. We're basically, they're the divorced divorced parents that are together, quote unquote, because the kid, and they're just like, okay, we'll be nice, we'll be cordial because of Big E, and then next week or in 2 weeks when Big E's gone and they're back to normal, then that's when we get like the true breakup. Xavier Woods turns heel, and we can kind of go on and they do whatever they're gonna do, whether it's like a full blown match or however long the next chapter of this New Day breakup is. So I think that was really well done, and it kind of sets up this New Day reunion to be a very big deal. Like, not just for historical reasons or a celebration, but people are expecting some angle to take place, and there definitely will be an angle, or a lack of angle will be an angle into itself. Then we had the main event, which was the women's advantage match, and Bianca Belair ends up getting the win over Nia Jax with the help of Bayley. Story kind of riddled throughout was with Jade gone, they need to find a fifth person. So maybe they should call Paul Heyman and maybe somebody else shows up for them. But Naomi made a suggestion of Bayley. Bianca kind of blew her off, and still kind of showing the tension that they have because of the Damage Control days. Io wants Kairi Sane to join the mix, but Belair gets the win. Bayley helps Nia Jax because, once again, we can't have a WWE match without a distraction finish or interference or whatever. But this time it's the babyface's interference, so it's okay, right? Not really. Bianca Belair gets the win. The whole crux of the match was there's no interference on the teammate side. So because Bayley was not a teammate technically, she can get involved and cost Nia Jax the advantage. And it's the women's match. It doesn't matter too much, I would say, who gets the advantage. I know typically the heels are going to get the advantage in War Games, but they do want to switch it up. And you probably do want to switch it up. Just don't always have it be the heels getting the advantage. And I would presume that the heels, the OG Bloodline 2.0 is going to get the advantage for the men's War Games match. Presumably Bayley is going to be the fifth person. Fine, I guess. Kind of going back to who attacked Jade Cargill. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's not going to make any sense if Belair is the one that attacked her and then she ended up leaving that match for the U.S. title. It just kind of undermines my point that she doesn't care. And why would anyone care about this stupid U.S. title if Bianca Belair doesn't care about it? A possible Naomi heel turn seems possible. A random NXT debut could seem possible. So if we're just kind of taking from the people already in the storyline, I would probably lean towards Naomi more than Bianca Belair, even though it doesn't really make too much sense for Naomi to turn heel right now. But there was like a little bit of, a hint of Naomi frustration. I know a couple weeks ago when she either lost the title or lost the number one contendership match. So maybe they're going to do something with that. But yeah, nothing too much on the Raw front. So let's get it on over to Phillip, and I'll be back with my Survivor Series preview.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about War Games. It is happening this Saturday, September 30th. Let's kind of run down the card. I'll start with the women's War Games match first. Normally one will start, one will end. I believe the women's one will obviously start because Bloodline, that's going last. We already know. Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io Sky, and Bayley are going to go up against Judgment Day's Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae. Do you have both babyface teams win both War Games? I mean, they've done that in the past, right? Jesus. I mean, there's interesting dynamic going on with people think Naomi's the one that attacked Jade, and then Bayley going out there on Monday to kind of prove hey, I'm on your side. I know we've had our differences with Bianca, because the Bianca Bayley feud before Bayley got hurt was really, really cooking and going somewhere. I'd love to see them revisit that, honestly. Even with Bianca as a heel now and Bayley as a face, I think that would be cool. So, maybe I kind of want Bianca to be the one that attacked Jade so we can get there too. But then, you have the dynamics with Nia and Tiffany. And no, she's in there with the briefcase. So, will she be able to cash in there? These are kind of things that I'm wondering. She has both singles women's world champions in there. That's a lot of stuff to think about here. But I'll probably go with Rhea Ripley and Bianca's team to get the dub ski. And then you have an IC title triple threat. Braun Breaker defends against Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. I think it'll be a solid, cool 10 minutes of action, but I think Braun Breaker's going to walk out the Intercontinental Champion. LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship. I think it'll be a nice test for LA Knight, but overall I think he will get by Shinsuke. And that's a shame. I don't want to say that about Shinsuke. I've always wanted Shinsuke to kind of get to the upper echelon, man. And when he was feuding with Seth, I'm like, okay, he could take the title off him for a month or two. It would have been fine. It would have been absolutely fine, but they didn't do that. Shinsuke, he's already been U.S. champion so many times before. If he can lose this one and, kind of want him to go on and do something else and do something bigger. But it'll be a nice test for LA Knight to to go out there with somebody like Shinsuke Nakamura. And of course, it is the World Heavyweight Championship. Damian Priest challenges Gunther to get back his World Championship. Like I said on the Raw recap, I think it'll be a nice back and forth match, but I think overall Gunther just beats Damian Priest clean and establishes that he's the ring general. And all right, it is the men's War Games match. The new Bloodline, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tamatonga, and Tongaloa with Bronson Reed go up against the OG Bloodline, Roman Reigns, the Usos, Jimmy J. Uso, Sami Zayn, and the Second City Saint CM Punk with Paul Heyman. This is going to be probably the most dramatic War Games match we have ever seen. I just think back to the 2022 one and Roman sitting in a chair in the cage and somebody was about to go out and then he stops him and like, no, Sammy, you go. Like just calling the shots, calling the plays. Now that Paul Heyman's back, they actually have a game plan, so this is going to be very interesting to see. Can CM Punk and Roman Reigns coexist? Can they put aside their egos and, whatever differences they have for the good of the team and to walk away the victors in this match, the match beyond? We're going to have to wait and see, but I mean, it would be interesting if the new Bloodline were to beat them because they couldn't coexist, or to Seth Rollins run out there and cost them. Like because the cage doesn't have a roof over it like the old War Games did. So that's another thing, man. Like there's a lot that can happen with this, but I think I'm gonna go with Roman's Bloodline. I think the OG Bloodline is gonna get past the new Bloodline in this. All right, guys, I'm gonna throw it over to Brandon and Marlee so they can discuss their thoughts on War Games.
Survivor Series, my favorite time of the year, one of my favorite WWE pay-per-views personally. We have the men's War Games match with the original Bloodline, Roman, the Usos, Jay and Jimmy, Sammy, and CM Punk with Paul Heyman versus the new Bloodline of Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tamatonga, Tongaloa, and Bronson Reed. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the new Bloodline are going to find a way to steal a win. But, of course, I'm rooting for the OG Bloodline, as always. We have Gunther versus Damian Priest. I see Gunther retaining because it's at that point in the WWE calendar where I don't see any champion losing their titles until Rumble Mania season. They're going to be holding on to those titles real tight until Rumble Mania season. We have the women's War Games match of Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io Sky, Bayley versus Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez of the Judgment Day, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae. I'm going to have to go with Rhea's team on this one. I think that if we're going to drag out Rhea versus Liv this long, give the W to Rhea. And we have a triple threat with Braun Breaker, Sheamus, and Ludwig Kaiser. And I say give it to Sheamus because I think that the Intercontinental title might be the title Sheamus needs to win for a Grand Slam, if I am not mistaken. If not that, it's got to be the U.S. title, but I've definitely seen that he's had U.S. title reigns before. But for the Grand Slam, I would go with Sheamus, but I wouldn't be shocked if Braun Breaker retained. And then we have LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I think that because Shinsuke just came back, I would have LA Knight retain, but it would also be kind of a shock and upset if Shinsuke won and he just came back. So we'll see how it plays out. I know that the War Games matches are probably going to take up most of the pay-per-view. The men's War Games is definitely going to open or close the show. The women's War Games is definitely going to open the show. And if they're smart, open close the show with the War Games matches and have everything else in between.
All right, y'all, let's go over the Survivor Series 2024 taking place at the Rogers Arena in Vancouver, British Columbia. You know, it's a Survivor Series. It's a big, big four. But do we really have to put in Canada? I mean, last time we had, Survivor Series in Canada, usually bad things happen. We don't want that to happen. Anyways, the less Canadian pay-per-views we have, I think, would be for the better. But I digress. Let's get on into it. We got 5 matches on the show, which is quite a bit for a WWE pay-per-view, especially with 2 of the matches being War Games. So those would definitely go at least a half an hour, definitely more on the men's side of things. But we got 3 title matches in between. If we're going match order wise, I think they're going to have the women's War Games match first, men's War Games in the main event, and then probably the if I'm booking it, women's title match or women's War Games, then LA Knight Shinsuke, then Braun Break, the triple threat IC title match, and then the World Heavyweight title match. They probably put the triple threat IC title match after the War Games, then because do Raw, SmackDown, Raw, whatever. But first, we'll do the women's War Games match: Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io Sky, and Bayley taking on. Oh, spoiler alert, because I think they had a tape show on SmackDown. So, anyways, taking on the Judgment Day: Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae. I think you just have the babyfaces win. Just have Rhea Ripley beat Liv Morgan. And then we kind of get on the path of Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan and Rhea getting her title back. Because this feud has gone on forever. I mean, even we're at Survivor Series, so it's November. They were feuding even before SummerSlam. So this feud has gone on like 5-6 months now at this point. I think it's definitely time to end it and we can kind of get Rhea going into Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. So it doesn't have to be Rhea and Liv in the finish, but I think you just have the babyfaces win. I guess Io is like the number 1 contender, right? Still, I don't think they had the title match yet. Io takes on Liv, right? I gotta look this up. Did Io? Let's see. Because I'm just not making that up, right? Yeah, I guess. She wins the. Let's see. On November 4th, she won the Battle Royal to determine the number 1 contender for Liv Morgan's world title, and I don't think they've even had them. Yeah, because that was after Crown Jewel, or whatever the Blood Bunny show was. So maybe Io gets the win to be like, oh yeah, she's still the number 1 contender, and then that leads into Saturday night's main event. But yeah, just have the babyfaces win, and if the heels win, I'm not too. Let's be honest, this match doesn't really matter. Then I said it's the triple threat IC title match: Braun Breaker, Sheamus, Ludwig Kaiser. This match has been built on just bad finishes, people interfering, and Adam Pearce. I love Scrap Daddy, but rewarding bad behavior. Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser interfering in matches, and then they end up getting what they want. They get a title match. It's bad. It's just bad. Rewarding bad behavior, just terrible. Anyways, I think Braun Breaker wins. I think he just pins Sheamus. I don't know. They're playing up Ludwig. Hasn't really done too much, and maybe he's trying to impress Gunther and make a statement here. Braun just got the title back. I don't think there's really much reason for him to lose it again. So I think you have Braun win. If you're telling me to pick someone to beat. I mean, I would say Sheamus, but I feel like Sheamus is higher up on the pecking order than Kaiser is, honestly. But I'll have to wait and see. Then, U.S. title match, LA Knight defending against Shinsuke and Nakamura. Shinsuke has this new look, looks like Anakin Skywalker. He's got some face paint on. He's supposed to be more serious and scary, but I mean, at this point of Shinsuke's career and this point at his WWE run, like, I guess you're putting like a, makeup on a pig, fresh coat of paint. It doesn't really do too much for me. Like I said, LA Knight's title run hasn't been anything spectacular. I mean, you got the babyface Cody on that brand on SmackDown with a title. Maybe you switch things up with Shinsuke as a heel to hold the title, and you have some other people kind of chase after him. I don't know. I think officially I will go with Shinsuke to get the win. Maybe just to kind of establish his new character, establish maybe some more viciousness. I'm not going to get my hopes up that we're going to get, Shinsuke Nakamura from 2014, but maybe they're just trying to do something different. Because, if LA Knight just comes out and beats Shinsuke, what does that do for Shinsuke? Really nothing. You just kind of smacks him back down the ladder. And maybe we get a non-finish, which I just roll my eyes out of my head if that happened, but you can't put it past Triple H at this point with his booking patterns of not booking finishes. Anyways, then we get the heavyweight title match, Gunther and Damian Priest. Like I said in the Raw recap, Priest is going after Gunther, saying he's kind of lost his aura. What happens if Gunther wins and gets his groove back? And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Gunther beats Priest. Should be a really good match. Maybe Gunther kind of sells too much. Not like physically sells, but, kind of facially sells and maybe messes up, like, botches on purpose and something like that. I think Gunther just wins and he kind of gets his stuff back and he kind of rights the ship, goes on his merry way. Maybe the Judgment Day gets involved just because they're not on this card. Maybe Ludwig Kaiser gets involved because he's angry that he lost his title match or whatever. I don't know. Then men's War Games match, we get Bloodline with CM Punk. So Roman Reigns, Jimmy and Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and CM Punk taking on the Bloodline. Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa with Bronson Reed. As I said, the dynamic between CM Punk and Roman Reigns in particular is really interesting. They played up kind of how the Usos and Sami Zayn reacted to that on Raw. Was it Jay? It's been a couple days, I kind of forget. One of the Usos was kind of in favor of it. Sammy was against it. And the other Uso was kind of like in the middle. So I think Jay was more in favor of it while Sammy was against it. And then Jimmy was kind of, torn. And we've kind of been putting so much heat on the new Bloodline now. Maybe you get a win here with the old Bloodline. You could see some tension between Punk and Roman. Maybe Paul Heyman caught in the middle. See, and this is why I was much higher on Punk being in here than Seth Rollins. It opens up so many possibilities. You definitely do not want to kind of run through the CM Punk Roman Reigns feud because, you got whatever you're doing at WrestleMania. Seth Rollins and CM Punk is going to be a thing. You don't kind of want to blow this off in like a month. You don't want to use CM Punk and Roman Reigns as a Royal Rumble match. You want to really get the most out of this. And maybe they do something like a full-blown angle or something, but I think they're just going to play off of each other, and it's going to be an interesting dynamic, but at the end of the day, they kind of get along reluctantly, and these two massive egos, along with the Usos and Sami Zayn, kind of figure a way to get it done. I mean, you got Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa in there. I think Tonga Loa could definitely be the guy to eat the pin here. I mean, if you kind of look at everybody, it's like Jey Uso on the face side and then Tonga Loa on the heel side as the people that would be the ones to take the fall or the submission to if that was on whoever is going to be the winner or loser on that one. So official prediction, I will go with the OG Bloodline to get the win, and maybe even CM Punk gets the win. Like, I think that'd be a fun way to still put heat on the on the OG Bloodline to where Solo can say like, look, you guys may have beat us, but you didn't beat us. CM Punk beat us. So maybe that's the kind of way that they play off of that. So yeah, it's should be a fun show. I don't think we're gonna get a massive return debut like we did last year with CM Punk, but you never know what can happen here in the World Wrestling Federation. But thank you guys very much. Let's jump it on over back to Phillip. to close out the show.
All right, guys, thank you very much. That is going to do it for all of us. This Saturday at the Gilman Brewery, I know everybody's still recovering from Turkey Day and all the fixings and the leftovers. This Saturday, Gilman Brewery, 7 p.m. Oasis Pro presents Year 2. It's a 2-year anniversary show. Come watch King Gaio versus Nick Xander. You have a blackout neon tag match for the main event with World's Freshest Tag Team, South Pacific Savages, THC. They're in that. What else do we have on the show? Surza's going up against Brett the Threat, and of course, you have the Melanin Mafia versus the Ugly Dojo Trios match, and so much more. You don't want to miss it. 7 p.m. Gilman Brewery, Berkeley, California. Oasis Pro Year 2. Thank you guys so much. We will be back next week. Probably going to do Survivor Series War Games recap. We're going to see where we can fit that in. Thank you guys so much. As always, be safe and stay dangerous. Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's the microphone Messiah and Mr. No Days Off. Microphone Messiah, Mr. No Days Off. Phil, Brandon, what's good, y'all? Let's go. Bullet Cast host. Look, this is the time for us to be great on podcasts. Let you know this is the time and how the vibe lasts. This is the feeling of time and when we on it. You know we got no time for no opponent. It's the feeling. This is the time of the greats. On everything that we say, you know we about getting paid. Every opinion of wrestling, you know we got the truth in it. Every time you know that.
This has been the Bulletcast. Thank you for listening.